Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have a special guest, Daniel, the past life regressionist, all the way from LA, right? You're in LA.
I'm in
Yes.
LA. Yeah.
I'm just outside Toronto, Canada. So, welcome today. And today I am so excited to learn
Thank you for
more.
having me.
You're welcome. Look, I'm so excited. I forgot to let you speak. Sorry about that.
It's
Uh,
okay.
and then you also have a podcast called Timeless Spiritual, correct?
Timeless spirituality.
Timeless Spirituality. So there you go, guys. For those that want to listen to his podcast, it's a great podcast. I've been listening to it, so it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Uh, and today I wanted to learn more about past life regression. But first of all, how did you even become interested in this topic?
Which lifetime?
This
Sorry.
one,
That's a bad past life joke. It's,
this one happening now.
I mean, full disclosure for everyone, we were talking for a few minutes beforehand, so we're already in that fun space. So it may
Yes.
be a little goofy today. I'm going to try to keep, all right, here's my serious face. And this is where I don't know. I never know where to look in the camera because for the podcast, I usually just do audio. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to look right in the middle of where we
It's
are right
all
now.
good. Look anywhere.
So how did I get interested in past lives or past life regression?
Yes.
For me, I mean, to kind of back up, I am very rigid and stubborn. And with that, my belief systems are usually very rigid and stubborn. And throughout my whole life, I was a firm believer in science. And if science couldn't prove it, then, it could be, but not going to put much in it. And past lives and things like that were always fun for me to think about, but I wouldn't really let myself go there because, just like I said, couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
And then when I was in my early 20s, I came down with an autoimmune disorder, and only Western medicine could cure me. That was my mindset. And after years of coming up short, just doctors saying, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to cure you. That didn't happen. I'm going to fix you, I'm going to cure you. Well, that didn't happen. I'm going to fix you, I'm going to cure you. That didn't happen. Excuse me, I was working the rule 3 there. Which I guess is something to the universe if it actually works, rule 3. See, I'm already being goofy and giddy unnecessarily. Sorry, we're going to get back to past lives right now.
Okay.
So at that point, I had to say to myself, you know what? I think I need to explore alternative treatments. I need to open myself up to the possibility that there is something that can cure me that
Yeah.
Western medicine cannot explain. And I started looking at alternative treatments, and past life regression just happened to fall into my lap. And I thought it was fascinating, but I didn't try it. And a couple months later, I had my first one-on-one session, and it just changed my life. And it changed my life not because it cured me. Admittedly, it did not cure me, even though that's really what I went for, was to be cured.
Mm-hmm.
It did something much more valuable, which was it shifted my perspective on things. And my experience was so profound that I walked out a believer in past lives. And I said to myself, look, I believe in past lives. So by default, I now believe in future lives. Next time, it could be better or it could be worse. But these are the cards I've been dealt this time. So how am I going to play them? And just right then
Yeah.
and there, things started to shift for me because I didn't view myself as a sick person anymore. It was just this thing I had to deal with.
Yes.
And I felt different as a result of that. And a year later, I got certified, and I've been a practitioner ever since 2016. So that's the long, short version of how it dropped into my lap and how I became interested in past life regression.
I feel like everything starts with an illness. Like me was a back injury, then I became a medium. You were your illness, and then you walked into this. I find it so interesting how the universe is like, we're going to redirect you,
Yeah.
right? Like you're going down the wrong way, and we're going to yeah, put the brakes on it and go that way. So with past life, like how does a session work? If someone were to book a session with you, because I know there is this fear, and for our listeners, because the reason, and I was explaining this to Daniel, the reason I'm so passionate about interviewing different people is to get rid of the fear of exploring different spiritual avenues, or maybe perhaps somebody's listening and they want to become a past life regressionist, but they're like terrified that they're gonna get stuck in a meditation or something's gonna take over. Like there's all that fear going on in their mind, whatever stories they heard. So what does a past life regression session look like for people?
So initially, I will send out a pre-session questionnaire, which I mean, I'm going to kind of jump all over the place right now.
Yeah,
It's a questionnaire that basically asks, what do you want to know? If you could ask, I call it the life librarian. If you could go to your life librarian and ask whatever question you want to know, what would you ask? And that is for the later part of the session when we talk to your higher self, subconscious, superconscious, which get to at that point. It's like I said, I'm jumping around. Is time really linear? Probably not. So I'm going to make it a
yeah.
non-linear explanation. And
Perfect.
when it's time for the actual regression, we'll start off with the pre-session just talking about you because I need to know who you are in this life in order to identify the patterns in a past life. So we will start with birth and work up until today. We're going to go through the story of you and who you are. And
Oh, wow.
then is when the regression happens. And that's whenever or when you will see what's most relevant for you, whether that be a past life or could be this life. That happens about
Yeah.
10% of the time, where it's just this life that you'll see. And it could be something else entirely. But with regards to the fear component, I don't like to speak in absolutes.
Okay.
But what I am very, very confident of is that you will never be shown anything you can't handle. I've had many people say to me beforehand, well, what if I see something that I can't get out of my mind? Or what if I am traumatized by what I see? Or what if I just, you think of it, it's name it. I kind of went off on that one. You know what I mean with that.
Yeah.
You name the idea, it kind of fits into that category. I've had
Yeah.
many, many, many people say that, but I've never had anyone say to me after a session that was too much for me to handle. And even me personally,
Yeah.
I still have my own regressions. I've slowed down a little bit. I do about 2 or 3 of them a year now, whereas I
Yeah.
used to do them about every 2 to 3 months. And it took me 4 years until I saw something heavy. Even though I thought I may have been ready for it
Yeah.
after a year or 2 years, I wasn't. So there was some part of me that knew that when that time came, when I was ready for it, that's when it would happen. So that's what I'll stand by with the fear component is that you're never going to be showing anything you can't handle.
So
And
when
sorry,
you say, sorry, Daniel, when you say you saw something heavy, you meant in this lifetime or in a past lifetime?
past lifetime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Everything else was just, I don't want to say rainbows and butterflies before that, but
Yeah.
it was lighter. I mean, there were still things
Yeah.
that I saw that were like, well, that was slightly unsettling, but I could handle it. But
Yeah.
it was at that 4 year mark where it was like, okay, here's something that you couldn't have handled a couple of years ago, but I was able to handle at that point and really understand it in a different way.
Yeah.
And then say, well, how can I utilize this in a positive way to move forward and let this go? So that's the past life portion. And then we will go speak with your higher self or subconscious, superconscious part of you that resides outside of you that
Mhm.
somehow seems to know anything and everything about you. And
Nice.
we will ask those questions on the questionnaire from earlier. But here's the thing everything is coming through you. For the actual regression itself, you are seeing and experiencing everything. At no point am I ever telling you, you were this in a past life, you were that. You are experiencing it for yourself. Same thing with the higher self portion or subconscious, superconscious. I'm asking the question and the answer is coming through you. So you're the one who is saying, oh, here's the answer to the question. So that's why I love the process because at no point do you ever need to take my word for it.
Yeah.
It's all coming from you, who is really where these things should be coming from. It's just not an outside authority. You are your own authority. So who better to receive that information than you yourself? I'm just the dude who's there to ask questions.
Yeah. And it sounds like we're out of our own way. So we don't have to be like, I need to control this session. So I like that part.
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on the individual. Sometimes some of my time is spent getting someone out of their own way because they want to control the outcome of the session.
Oh,
But
okay.
um, that's where, even as we were talking about before we hit record, I usually shoot myself in the foot a lot as someone who does this for a business. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to sit here and shoot myself in the foot right now and say, if you're not ready to get out of your own way, don't do a regression because you may get something out of it, but the odds are that it's not going to be as positive as it could have been if you just got out of your own way, because that's the way to really get something out of it, is to relinquish control of the process. But the thing is, you were always in control. So if something comes up and you don't want to really explore it, you have the control to say, I don't want to look at this. And I would respect that. But
Okay,
it's
then.
totally up to you. But in terms of controlling the outcome or having an expectation of how you want it to go, I'd say only do it if you're ready to let go of any expectation. Because if you need to fulfill a narrative for yourself, go write a
Yeah.
story. You don't have to go through the process of having a regression to complete your narrative.
Okay.
So,
Because I was just gonna say, because that sounds super healing, like to let go and go back to where you need to go, being guided by you to heal whatever it is that we need to heal for this lifetime.
so let me kind of give you an example for the narrative component.
Okay.
For those 4 years before I saw something heavy, I needed to see myself as the hero of the story. I
Okay.
needed to. Now, whether or not I was actually controlling the process, that was what I was going in with, is I needed to see myself as the hero. And it wasn't until I was ready to relinquish that control that the changes really started to happen for me. And here's the other part of it is I had already been a practitioner for 3 years at that point before I saw something heavy.
Yeah.
So I was still, I mean, look, I thought I was an effective practitioner still, but that was the space that I was in at the time where I was spiritually bypassing a lot and, using these concepts as a way to bolster this narrative that I wanted to have for myself, either to see myself as the hero or the tragic hero. There really was no in between.
Yeah.
And, that's something I'm still working on in many respects. Although I think I've let that go a lot, but it's kind of, I didn't like a lot of Shakespeare, but there was something about the woe is me and the concept of
Yeah.
the tragic hero that really resonated with me. I mean, is this a cussing podcast? I probably shouldn't
No.
if like that. Oh no, it's no cussing.
I'll delete the cuss.
Okay. I never
But
really
yeah,
liked F in Hamlet. Is that okay?
yeah, that's perfect. I'm curious because I remember this was a long time ago. I had a friend, she was trying to become a past life regressionist. I don't think
Hmm.
she does it anymore. Like she started it and then it wasn't for her, but she needed some people to practice with. And then I just remember stuff because for me, like when we went back, I remember being a witch. I remember being hung on a tree. And then I was like, oh my God. I walked out, I was like, well, that was an interesting past life regression. So I'm wondering, like, with when people go to past life regressions, do they remember all their past deaths, even like the more intense ones,
If they need to.
if they need to? How far
Mhm.
back do they go? Or there is no time or space there.
I mean,
It's whatever.
I'm only going to speak in linear sense right now
Yeah,
because I said I don't believe the time is linear, but I'm still trying to figure out what that means.
yeah,
I think time is more of a place as opposed to a when.
yeah,
With the linear nature, though, I mean, I've had people go back and see themselves in the Stone Age. I've
yeah,
had people go back and see themselves on Earth, what we would probably know to be hundreds of millions of years ago or possibly billions.
yeah,
But who knows if that's also a metaphor? I mean, I
yeah.
think it's entirely true that it's real, but we'll never rule out the possibility that what someone is seeing and experiencing is a metaphor and a way for them to have something a little more tangible for this life and help them move forward in that way. So I think that's why attachments and or lack thereof are very important when you go into this. It's just not attaching to who you were. It's about who
Yeah.
you are now that matters.
So I am curious about this because I've heard this, so I don't know if it's true or not. Uh, that the things you have within your home today can be a clue to some of your past lives. So if you're really into the Egyptian stuff, and then all of a sudden you have all this Egyptian art or pyramids or whatever, like, what do you think? Is that true or not true? I don't know.
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine for that one.
Okay.
Uh, But here's what I would say. In these situations, I default to the Sherlock Holmes quote of once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So why would someone have such a fascination with Egyptian culture? Well,
Yeah.
if we have no other possible reason for it, let's default to the Sherlock Holmes quote. Well, you probably lived a past life in Egypt
Hmm.
and you're very fond of it. There's this memory that you bring back and you want to decorate your home in that fashion. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible. I mean, I look around my place right now and it's very bland.
Hmm.
I don't have much artwork. My walls are pretty much all that there is spare. I mean, I do have this bookshelf behind me.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, but it may not just be in my personality also to be a decorator in this life and to want to bring those aspects of myself out. Because then maybe I'm living it out by revisiting it when I drop into that space for myself and have my own regressions. So it's like it just maybe it comes in a different way than decoration. But yeah, I think it's entirely possible that that could be the reason why someone decorates in a particular fashion. It's because it's what they were, it's where they were.
So part of their soul remembers. So then now I'm just getting curious because I've seen a lot of videos, I think like on TikTok where you will see like little kids. I find it so fascinating where they will remember past lives.
Mhm.
And they're so tiny. And then I think I watched it was a documentary, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, and they followed this child. And then as the child got older, then they couldn't remember anything more. It's almost like their soul was more integrated into this life. So I find that very fascinating. Have you come across like people like that, or have you had that experience? Do you remember past lives?
I mean, for me,
While you're awake, not asleep or not in a session.
I mean, we're talking about when I was a kid or now.
Like as a kid, do you remember past lives?
I hear a lot of stories about that. And I
Uh,
personally haven't really interacted with a lot of children with regards to past lives, or I mean, I've never done a session with a child before, but I hear a lot from my clients who talk about their kids having those experiences and just this recollection. It's like, I don't know where that came from. Or my aunt, she always likes to tell the story about the time when my cousin was, I think, 2 or 3 years old and said, you remember when I was the mommy and you were the baby? So the theory is that there's more of a remembrance that takes place up until about 6 or 7 years old, and then it starts to fade away. And I mean that's the most I can give you for that one. But yeah, I do hear a lot of stories about children having that recollection. And for me personally, it's I don't remember ever recounting stories, but I do remember having moments when I was a child of feeling out of place and feeling like I was somewhere else while I was here. And then years later, seeing in regressions that, oh, this is what I was seeing when I was 4 years old and I was running on the playground. But because I remember at the preschool I was at, there was this little, I mean, what felt like a forest when I
yeah.
was 4 years old, like, in a corner of the campus. And I remember running through it. And at the same time, seeing a lot of bamboo that I was running through, but it wasn't like that. And I felt like I was somewhere else. And then I said, years later, seeing in a regression, oh, that's what I was seeing when I was 4. I was having some kind of memory, or at least that's what it seems to be. So, yeah, I do believe that children have more of a natural remembrance up
Yeah.
until the age of 6, 7, maybe even 8. But it's from what I hear, it's usually around 6 or 7 when that starts to go.
I think that's so cool that they can remember it because then you'll see these little kids where they're like playing the piano and they're like so amazing at it. And I almost feel like they're so gifted at such a young age. So that's
Mhm.
almost like remembering a past life or being reincarnated with a past life. Is that a thing? Like, does that make sense what I just said?
And that there's a remembrance that's taking place that maybe they haven't learned all of those skills in this life, but somehow they just have this natural ability that comes with them that seems to get turned on that moment they sit down at a piano.
Yeah.
And I mean, admittedly, that's a lot of the reason why I'm busting my butt learning guitar. I mean, I've been playing guitar since 2007. It's not something that's come easy to me. But as I continue to play more and more, it's like, well, maybe this will carry over and it won't be as difficult next time. I'll pick up that guitar and everyone will be like, wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
A new hobby. So with past life, is there a part of past life that you find more interesting? Because I'm assuming I feel like it's everything and anything. So is there like different topics within past lives? Like when you were studying that you found super interesting?
The stuff I found the most interesting was a lot of the ancient stuff,
Yeah.
revisiting ancient cultures and, the exploration of life on other planets
Yeah.
or in other places. But the longer I've been doing this, the more I become fascinated with the interpersonal stories
Yeah.
and in the true healing that can take place when someone has the courage to go back and say, I'm ready to not have this be a part of my life and to move forward in a different direction by confronting what's difficult for them. That's what fascinates me now. It's really the courage of the human spirit. And I mean, I remember that excitement that would happen when I'd have someone drop into one of those ancient places where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, another alien. But at the end of the day, what difference was that really making? Maybe that person needed to see that. And that's totally okay because it's whatever the individual needs.
Yeah.
But how is that really moving your life forward in a way where you can live a more fulfilling life now? So I think it's still as time went on, I felt that fulfillment out of feeling like I was really doing my job well when someone would confront the difficult. And so that's not to say that I don't appreciate every session. Because I do.
Yeah.
Like I truly do. But that's what fascinates me now is because I mean, I think you look around the world
Yeah.
and you see a lot of people running away. They're not running towards something, they're running away from something. And so when
Yeah.
I see someone running towards something in that respect,
Yeah.
that fascinates me. It fascinates me that this mother of three or this mother of four is finally running towards something. And it's not saying that she was running her entire life, but where it's no, I need to do this for me. I need to do it for my children. I need to overcome this part of myself that I've been carrying around. And that fascinates me.
I find that powerful, intriguing, and interesting at the same time. Because it's like you say, it's to have the courage to go there and also to realize that you need to go there. Because I even find, like, even in my own life, you get busy, 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 and you know there's stuff you need to deal with. Like, I know I need to go for a healing session. I know I need to have a break. But then you get caught in the rat race of life and you're like, but everybody needs me. You keep going, and you're
Mhm.
until you burn out. And then you're like, okay, now I got to go do all those healing sessions or whatever it is that I was avoiding doing. So I love that people then are like, yeah, I'm gonna do the past life regression.
So, do you mind if I comment on that really quick?
Yes, yes, please.
I agree with you with what you just said, but I also don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with someone getting caught up in life because that's one of the things I do take issue with in the space is a lot of guilt or like the
Yeah,
projection of guilt where it's like, oh, well, you need to take the time for yourself or else you're never going to. I mean, while some of that may be true, the
yes,
reality of the world that we're living in is that there are only 24 hours in this linear time day that we all live
true.
through, and you're asleep for a third of it.
Yeah,
And we do have responsibilities that we need to fulfill throughout every day. We do need to keep ourselves alive by having a job and making money. That
yes,
is just the reality of the world we live in. And I think it's wrong and I know you weren't doing this, but
yeah,
because I think a lot of what's coming from the space is it's on you. It's your fault that you're feeling this way because you haven't taken the time. to do this, or you haven't put your house up for a second mortgage in order to sign up for this program to heal yourself, which is stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you should put your house. Like, no, who in the right mind would instruct someone to put their house up for a second mortgage in
Yeah.
order to go through a healing program? So I would never want anyone listening to this to feel guilty for not taking the time for themselves to go through the process. If you're not
Yeah.
ready for it, you're not ready for it. If you do have
True.
other obligations, you have other obligations. Feeling guilty is just going to add to a burden that you don't need to feel.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that's something that's important to look at if you do want to go through the healing process also, is who is going to be understanding and sympathetic of that. You know,
Yeah.
who's not going to emotionally like beat you down if you didn't do your homework that week because, oh, your kid got sick.
Yeah.
And so I think that those are all things to take into consideration because I think that that only adds to the fear.
Yeah. I know I just speak about myself because I know I get caught up and then I forget and then I get burnt out. I have a very bad habit of go, 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 burnout. And then it's almost like that forced rest, that forced self-care because
Mhm.
I haven't, just because
You mean where if you were to pace yourself, that may be more
that would have
beneficial for you
worked.
along the way,
That
right?
would have worked for me. Because now I'm like, oh, I want to try this, I want to try that. And when am I going to schedule it in? But that's just me. And I think I don't know if that's the way I'm wired or I just have to pace myself better. But I just find, yes, that's just me. I'm always getting burnt out, but it's okay. I'm getting better to pace myself. And I find to just meditating. I love to meditate and quiet my mind and listening to those messages from spirit where it's like, yeah, you need to take a time out. I find this topic so fascinating. Um, like with all the readings that you've done over the years, is there one that stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I still want to make that the distinguishment. Is that the right word for? I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
distinct. It's one of those days. I don't do readings. I do regressions because a past life
regression,
reading is
sorry.
different. A past life reading is when you go to someone to tell you what you were in
Oh,
a past life, whereas a regression is when you have that experience for yourself. So
okay, thank you.
yeah, that's the difference between me and a past life reader.
Okay, I
Um,
didn't know that, so that's good to know. Yes, thank you.
oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad I could clear that up.
I didn't know there
Uh,
was a difference, but now we do. So that's good for people that are listening. Now they know the difference.
Again, I don't want that responsibility. I want the responsibility to tell someone that, oh, you were this. It's like, nope. You want to shoot the messenger? Go look in the mirror.
Yeah,
Uh, sorry, I digress again.
that's
What
okay.
is the one that stands out for me the most? It was select. That's easy. I mean, you can go also check out this episode on my podcast. It was episode 25, I believe. It's called The Heart Goes On, Timeless
Okay.
Spirituality on all major platforms. This was the session that changed everything for me. It was back in May of 2018. And it didn't change me as a person completely, but it changed me as a practitioner. And what had happened there was I had a session with someone who her fiance passed away a few months prior.
Yeah.
And she didn't think that they were going to be together again or that they'd ever known each other. And, you know, in my mind, I beg to differ, but it happens. So I'd been a practitioner at 2 years for that point, and I was still chasing the
Yeah.
ancient stuff, the stuff with Egypt or lost civilizations or aliens. And admittedly, when that wouldn't come up in a session, at first I'd feel a little disappointed. Like, it's just it's a regular session. It's Dolores Cannon, who was the founder of QHHT, which is one of the methods that I practice. She had an expression for it. She called it the potato lives because a lot of people were just potato farmers throughout
Yeah.
the existence of time. So it's just, oh, another potato farmer. And in this session, she ended up going back and seeing that her fiance had passed away, that they had lives together. And that that changed things for me because I saw in that moment, this is what it's about. I may be cerebrally excited by the out there stuff. But again, what difference is that really making by
Yeah.
having those sessions? Yes, it's what the person needs to see, but this is what really changes things. And then I did a session with her a couple of years later. Again, and I wouldn't talk about this stuff unless she came on my podcast and talked, because it's like when you have a session with me, it's between us. Like I'm not going to go out
Yes.
there and talk about who you are. I may talk about a session years down the line and switch up personal details if need be, because it's like I want to protect anyone who works with me. But again, she's come on my podcast a couple times and talked about this, so it's like, and I've gone on her platform also, so that's why I'm more comfortable speaking openly about this. And then I had a session with her a couple of years later, and he came back again to talk to her and gave her the essence of the man that she was going to marry. And lo and behold, when she met this man a little while after that, she felt that essence
Oh,
and she
wow.
married him and had a kid with him. And I mean, not only that, I had met her at a wedding, at my best friend's wedding. And it was a different dynamic because it was like a friendship had been struck up right away. And I'm a musician as well. So, like I said, with the guitar thing that I've been practicing for my next existence.
There you go.
And she asked me to perform at her engagement party. And to me, it was that moment of, I can't say for sure that they never would have met each other, that she wouldn't have recognized him in one way or another had she not done the sessions with me. But the
Yeah.
reality of the situation is that that's the way it did happen. And it was that feeling of sitting there performing at their engagement party that all of this came together because of that meeting that I had with her, and that she was able to see the world in a different way through that session.
Yeah.
And no session about aliens or ancient civilizations or lost civilizations could ever equal that kind of personal change.
Yeah.
So to me, that's my favorite session. And I don't know if anything will ever top that. Ever just, I don't know if anything can.
That's magic.
It
Like
really
magic
was.
of the souls and
Yeah.
magic to be a witness to it
Hmm.
and to be of service for them. And yeah, I think that's really cool how that happened. That's
And
really interesting.
I
Yes.
think there's just something so beautiful also about him coming back to
Yeah.
tell her about the next one, or that man who would be her husband, because I think it helped her kind of let go. Like, what would he think if I moved on? But it's like, no, he's the one coming and telling you, this is the guy for you. This is him. And I think there's something so beautiful about that, because like, I don't know the intricacies of the way it works after death,
Yeah.
but the feeling I get is that, I mean, you would probably know this better than I would, the way that souls feel on the other side, but that there really wasn't a jealous component to it. It was
Yeah.
just, I love you and I want you to be happy. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm still here for you. I'm still here guiding you. Still here, still here loving you, but just in a different way. And I think that that's so beautiful.
That is beautiful. And I do agree with you because the souls go crossover and they just want the best for us,
Hmm.
right? Like that ego part stays here, and then over there is something completely different. And I
Yeah.
find it interesting because I'll hear this in readings where someone has lost a husband and they'll come for a reading, and then the husband will talk about somebody they just introduced them to. And I'll be like, how do you know? I'm like, well, he's here, he knows, and he's giving you permission to go live your life and go be happy. I think there's just so much magic in all of this stuff that we do and how we help people and help them heal and be of service to them on their journey in this lifetime.
Yeah.
So with that, I am curious with the past lives, because have you ever had an experience of a past life while you're awake, where you're just like walking and then all of a sudden a memory hits you? And then you realize, like, wait, that was from a past life.
I think the answer is yes. One of the
Yeah.
things about me is, this is like a total practice what you preach moment. where
Yeah.
I'm always encouraging people, just trust yourself a little more. Just trust what's coming through. Just trust it. But I do believe I have those moments in my waking life, but it's hard for me to trust it.
Yeah.
And I mean, trusting my gut and my intuition, that's a different story. But I also think I have a very wild and vivid imagination. So how can I really trust this thing that's just coming to me? Some, I think so. I think that that's my answer is I think so.
I think so.
Uh, I know that's probably not a very sexy answer to the
No,
question,
it's
but
okay. Because I've had experiences years ago. And then at that point, I was studying with a shaman, and I was so like, whoa, I don't understand this. And he told me, he's like, meditate on it. I just want you to sit with that vision you had. It's like, and then when I sit with the vision that I had, and I would go back and I'm like, I feel like that was a past life I had because it kept
Mhm,
coming back and it felt so real, but I would be awake when it happened. And then I would have it. It was weird because I had it for a year, the same vision over and over. And it was the way I passed. And then once that age went away, I think it was like in my 30s or something, that vision stopped after I turned like, I don't know if it was 30 and then I turned 31. And then that vision that I had for the whole year, because it was weird because I kept having it and it was always black and white. And I thought, oh, that's so weird. And it was so random. And then when I sat with it, and he's like, you're probably reliving like a tiny bit, but I was awake of a past life. Have you ever had a client like that, or am I the first? I don't know.
yeah, no, no,
It
no.
was
I mean,
weird.
it's, I mean, I think that there's the added layer also of is there a certain location that you're at? Because it's also if you revisit a place that you've physically been at in another life, is there a remembrance that takes place? Does something come
Oh,
flooding back to you? Or is it something seemingly random? Or is it that you meet someone who triggers that? What are the circumstances of that interaction, whether that be a place, person, or thing that triggers that? So, I mean, I think
okay.
there's much more to it. And because, I mean, look, could it just be seemingly random? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Something could just be created out of nothing there. It could be like a past life memory alchemy.
Oh.
I'll coin that one. I mean, I think this it's not really a smooth expression, but you guys get the point, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I thought that was so interesting because I'd be like, oh, I'm awake. And then I've had experiences like that over the years, but I would be awake.
Hmm.
I would be awake, and then all of a sudden I would go back, and then I had another life, another kid, and there was like this whole experience, but it felt so real. And then I
Hmm.
was like, okay, and my eyes are open, and let's continue. Because then I'm
Like
like, am I going crazy? What is this?
maybe, maybe not.
Maybe.
But I think the challenge at that point also becomes how much can you just put it on the back burner?
Yeah.
Because it may be one of those things where you actually put a lot of time and effort into getting to the bottom of it, and maybe you find out. But maybe it also wasn't the right time to have more clarity on it. Because maybe, again, I'm playing devil's advocate on this one because I can see an
Yeah.
argument for exploring it when it comes up. But at
Yeah.
the same time, maybe it's just a part of the puzzle later on where it's so vivid that you can't forget it.
Yeah.
And then when there's another piece of it that happens 6 months later, or a year later, or 3 years later, it's just another piece of the puzzle. And it's
Yeah.
laying itself out in a way that we can't comprehend from our point of view.
Yeah.
So is it just about letting the process unfold? And you know
Yeah.
what I mean with that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I'll have the experiences and then I'm just like, okay, I'll share with a friend. I'm like, and I'm done because I don't
And
know what to do with it. And I'm like, I got a lot on my plate. So moving forward.
and it's exactly what you said there. I don't know what to do with it. And I think that that's the beauty of our journey is it's up to us what we decide to do with it. And like that's one of the big takeaways I want everyone to take away from past life regression. I'm not here to tell you what to do with the information that comes up. That's up to you. Like you can apply that information to your life however you want, or you can put it in the closet and never look at it again. But like that's the beauty of this journey is it really is in our control
Yeah.
how we decide to proceed with whatever's been given to us. Like we have that choice to make. No one can force that on us. So that's still one of those things. Like, because again, I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from is what if I'm doing the wrong thing here? And
Mm.
if I don't do enough, what's going to happen as a result of that? Am I missing out? And that all creates the fear. So don't let anyone tell you what to do with this stuff. Like, that's the thing is, yes, I'm a practitioner. I do this professionally. I
Yeah.
may have a little bit more experience in the realm of past lives than you do, but
Oh,
that doesn't mean,
absolutely.
well,
I've
well,
no experience.
but that, I'm saying that doesn't mean anything though, because I don't know you the way that you know you. I don't know the totality of your journey and everywhere you've been, not only in
Yeah.
this life, but all lives. So who the hell am I to tell you this is what you need to do with the information? So I can be like, look, let's play the devil's advocate. I'll present both sides to you. And
Yeah.
you choose what you do with it. Because I don't think that there's any right or wrong answer, because then it's a matter of also, is there one straight line that we're walking? Or are there
Yeah.
many different paths that we can walk from any given situation? And what will be the outcome from all of those different choices? And what if they're all the right choices to make because they're a choice? So there is no right or wrong. And it's just about the experience.
Yes.
I think that's the beauty of this time construct that we all find ourselves in, is what if it's just so much more expansive than we could ever possibly imagine?
I like that. I like the way you phrase that. So when someone has a session with you, there isn't this pressure, because I always find sometimes things have pressure on them of, okay, you've had the session, now you have to choose and do X, Y, Z. And I love the way you said it. It's yours. You're in charge of your life. Like you help guide them there. And then it's like, it's up to you. You're not taking away our I don't know, what's the word? Our power. You're not
Mm,
taking away our power. You're just guiding people through their sessions. So I love that you do that because that is
thank you.
empowering to people.
I hope so. I mean, and
Yeah.
if it's not, I think that's something that someone should look at, is why do you need someone to tell you how to do it? Like I said,
Yeah.
I just may have a little more experience in that realm, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. That doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. Because let me tell everyone this, I, I'm still trying to figure it out too. I'm
Yeah.
still so lost in my journey. It's amazing how that happens, where it's like, yeah, I can help a lot of people, but that guy, I'm looking at the mirror, can I help him as much as I'm able to help others? It's like, well, I don't know. I provide just as much space for him as others, but maybe a little more bias to that story and I have a little more investment in the outcome of that one. So
Yeah.
it's the reluctance of making a move there. But see, I think that that's what this is all about, is the empowerment and that self-empowerment, and never,
Yeah.
never questioning your own journey and those
Getting
things
rid
that
of,
you've done. Hmm?
sorry, and getting rid of the fear.
Exactly. Because look, we've all done things that we wish we could change.
Mhm.
Whether those be, like, I mean, boil it down to good or bad, but there could even be good things we've done. Like, well, I could have done that better. Sure, sure, you could have done it better. But this is what I tell everyone I work with. I don't care who you were yesterday. I don't care who you were this morning. I care who you are tomorrow. That's all I care about, is what you
Mm.
do moving forward. Because you
Yeah.
can't do anything about what's happened before. I mean, sure, if you knew someone who could take you back to revisit those things, everyone,
Yeah.
you can reach me at the Past Life Regressionist if you're interested in that. That's neither here nor there now. But
Absolutely.
but I think if you feel that self-empowerment, then that's going to eliminate the fear, because you're completely in control of your journey, which also paradoxically means relinquishing a lot of control.
Yeah.
But it's up to you how you decide to proceed.
I love that. So before we come to the end, is there any favorite books you have that you would recommend? I was just curious.
Yeah, it's not a past life regression book. It's a book called The Timekeeper by Mitch Albom. It's a fictional story, and
Okay.
it is it's a fictional story that changed my life and my relationship with time. And it made me appreciate time in a way that I never did before, because it made me understand that it's all about perception. It's all about the journey, and that some of us want time to go so much quicker while others are just wanting every second to stretch out longer and longer. And it's just that appreciation of each moment. And it's a short read. I want to say a little less than 200 pages, or about 200 pages.
Yeah.
Very, like, it's a very quick read, and it's the most profound book I've ever read. So I would recommend The Timekeeper by Mitch Albom. It's an incredible story. Now, past life regression book, I would recommend Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. I think that that's a
Hmm.
good entry book because it's easier to digest than a lot of the others.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd say the Timekeeper, honestly. If I had to pick between the two, I'd say the Timekeeper.
Now I'm gonna go get it because now you got me fascinated about this book. And it is so true about that word perception. Everything's perception. When people
Mhm.
are like, when we get in that space of judgy, it's like, well, that's your perception. What's their perception? What's the other perception? Like, it's all perception, which I find so fascinating. But that book seems super interesting. So if there is anybody listening right now and they're like, oh my God, I love Daniel, I love what he does, and I want to learn how to do that, what would you recommend for those people?
You mean how to be a past life regressionist?
Yes, like how to begin on that journey if they're interested.
First and foremost, I'd recommend having a past life regression because you'd
Hmm.
be surprised how many practitioners I've talked to who went and got certified before having a past life regression. I
Yeah.
I mean, look, that to each his own, but I think it's important to have the experience first because there is a bit of a commitment that takes place, to become certified. So I'd say try it first.
Yeah.
That's the first step. And if you want to become a practitioner, the one I do always recommend is QHHT for quantum
Okay.
healing hypnosis technique. That's by Dolores Cannon. And
Okay.
yeah, I'd say QHHT was probably the way to go. And then, of course, there are others out there, but
Yeah.
that's always the one I would recommend first.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you for spending this time with us today. And if people want to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you?
Well, I mean, just thank you for having me on. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
It
And
has. It's been fun.
I've enjoyed every second of it. And I would do it all over again if I had the choice and the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
So I appreciate every moment I've shared with you today.
Oh, thank you. Me
And
too.
you can reach me at thepastliferegressionist.com, or you can reach me on Instagram at the Past Life Regressionist, and also check out my podcast, Time with Spirituality. And you can find that on all major platforms. And I like it. It's
I
it's
like it.
fun. I have fun doing it. It's a little off the beaten path sometimes, not always what you'd expect in a spiritual podcast, but then maybe it's everything you're expecting in a spiritual podcast. But I'll say this about it. The person I'm speaking to is your boyfriend or your husband, because I know in this space that it's predominantly female dominated.
Hmm.
And I mean, 95% of my clientele is female. But the thing I hear from most of my female clientele is that they wish that their partners, their boyfriends or husbands, could be on this journey with them,
Hmm.
and, or at the very least, just not belittle their experience and talk down about like, oh, you and your medicine, your crystal, I mean,
You're
everything
woo
I'm sure
woo.
everyone has heard on this. Yes, the woo woo stuff. So that's who I'm usually talking to because I want to bring them into the fold. I want I want you and your partners to be able to share this experience together. And that's my long-winded way of saying that I take a very grounded approach to the way that I speak about things.
Hmm.
Because if you're listening to this right now, you're already in, but it's
Yes.
about them. And all I have is the opportunity to lose them, that person who you're sitting next to right now. And I want you guys to experience all this together. So if I can help bring them into the fold in a very grounded way, I want to do that because I want you guys to share your journeys together. And it's like that's what I mean. Like if you're looking for the more woo-woo stuff, sure, there's a couple episodes that may, tickle your fancy. I don't know if that's an expression from now,
I don't
but
know. It's all
uh,
good.
but yeah, just check out Timeless Spirituality. And I also want to, lastly say in the Timekeeper, there were two words that changed my life in there. And this is not giving away anything. The moment I saw those words, I just felt a shift in my body. And those words were not yet. So if that's the thing I leave everyone with today, it's not yet. Not my words,
Oh, I
but
love that.
not yet. that changed everything for me.
That is beautiful. And before we close, I do want to do a shout out to our friend Yadaber who connected us. And she has Rekindle Your Light podcast. I just want to say thank you to that Yadaber for connecting us to Daniel for today because she keeps it real and I absolutely love her
She does.
for that. Yes. And I will have all of Daniel's links in the podcast. And this will also be on YouTube. So look out for the video. Okay, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me.